IG.
And welcome in to the Grind on Sports. I'm Wayne Kaiser alongside the Ben Metz right here. And it's been a minute. Been a little bit of time. Seems like that's the summer vibe right now. Is a lot of things going on. I had to whoop up on some pneumonia, so got that taken care of. And now it's back to talking sports. Today a little bit of bittersweet, but again a lot to be celebrated. Tennessee baseball. BASEVOLS, as I've called them all season, get to finish up their season. Did that just earlier this week in Omaha. Got a win in Omaha, and just not enough to get over the LSU Tigers. Which, if you see me looking to my left, you're right. It's because Wake Forest, LSU, they're trying to figure out who's going to go to the finals to play the Florida Gators. So, Ben. How you been, man? I know you've been vacating it a little bit, but, I mean, you are a vacating man. I just want you to know. You are a very traveling fella, but went hatless tonight, so glad everybody could see that you do have hair.
Yeah, I'm trying to revive the receding hairline, so I'm trying to give it a little bit of air this evening. But, yeah, man, I've been good. Been doing a lot of travel with my daughter with volleyball. And that season has finished. It's behind us. She played well this year. And I'm excited about where we are right now as fans, as Tennessee fans, as sports fans. This time of year is so exciting. I know we're finishing up the College World Series. We're getting ready to get into some the second half of Major League Baseball. We're into summer football practice. So we're going to be getting into that time of year that you and I love the most, and that's football season, my friend.
Well, it's those dog days of summer right now. But I'll tell you, Laura and I were talking earlier today. You know, it's like 70 days until Tennessee football starts. But this Sunday, Nealon picks up pads, and then in a couple weeks he hits the practice field. He's got a camp Saturday. So there's things that are going to start bridging that gap. And then ultimately, been watching the Braves. They've had a pretty good season, a good start to this season. And so that's going to bridge the gap between that and fall camp for Tennessee football. So, yeah, a lot to be happy about this season. You know, I was looking at stats. This Tennessee baseball team, they started conference play 5-10. They ended conference play 16-14. So, I mean, realistically, a way better second half of the year than they did the first half. But again, that's the trajectory you'd hope for. And then ultimately, you kind of called the shot. Going on the road seemed to be a good thing for this Tennessee baseball team headed to Omaha. 2 out of 3 years got there, but this time very different. Didn't get the friendly confines of Lindsey Nelson through the Supers. Had to go to Clemson. Took care of business there, had to go to Hattiesburg, Mississippi, not only beat the baseball team that was there, but also the weather, the umpires, all of that. But we're able to get that done in the wee hours of the morning and finally punch a ticket to Omaha. And really, you know, it's kind of new ground for Tennessee baseball. 2 out of 3 years going to the World Series. I don't know that that's happened any other time in our history. It was the first time we had won a game since 2001 in Omaha. Like that week post. I mean, obviously, I didn't want to lose to LSU the other night. I knew if we beat them, it was going to be a very, very, very daunting task to beat them twice. And what they've done with Wake Forest shows me that they deserve to be where they're at right now. But I just can't tell you. With what's coming back on this baseball team, with the pieces that really 12 months ago wasn't a part of this baseball team anyway, how Tony brought them together, how they bought in, and how just 180-degree different they were from last year's team, but still very, very, very successful.
Yeah, let's not forget there were a lot of question marks going into the season. Because you depleted the entire roster with the exception of Dickey in the starting 9. So yeah, the pitching staff was coming back, but you had to replace 8 position players on offense, and he did a really good job with Maui Ahuna. Did a really good job with Griffin Merritt and Zane Denton, getting those transfers to come in. He's got more coming in this upcoming season. And let's not forget about the last couple hitters we saw in Omaha against LSU. Kavaris Tears and then Dylan Dreiling are going to make huge impacts to this baseball program. And my understanding, Wayne, is that Chase Burns is coming back. Also, potentially Andrew Lindsay as part of that rotation, and then maybe Drew Beam. So the pitching will be depleted somewhat with losing Dolander and some other guys in the rotation. But outside of that, we will have a competitive team. So we've come a long way here at the University of Tennessee.
Well, and realistically, I mean, you looked a year ago, 2 pitchers that we replaced a year ago that arguably you would question where they would fit into this rotation. Can you name those 2?
The
Blake
two,
Tidwell and Ben Joyce.
right.
I mean, those are 2 guys that, Ben Joyce has already made an appearance in the major leagues, and Tidwell's doing his thing in, I believe, the Nationals organization. But those 2 pitchers are gone. And so we more than backfilled those guys. And I think, with Frank Anderson, as Tony says, and I love it, in Frank we trust. I think as long as he's there, whoever's in that bullpen is going to be ready to go when they need them.
Yeah, and, I think one thing that you learn while watching Omaha, watching the Men's College World Series, what I enjoy about it so much compared to basketball, compared to football, you can't make an argument about who the best team is by the time this is all said and done. It is such a meat grinder, and it gives fair opportunity to everybody. Yes, there is some concern, or there's some questions in the regional and the super regional about, seeding and location as far as the super regional goes, or the regional. But at the end of the day, you have your top 16 teams that get to host the regional. And then they're faced with other competitors, and then it's a filtering process with the 2-game, the 2-and-out process. So when you get to this point in the College World Series and you watch these guys, everybody's throwing 95 plus. And watching LSU the past couple of nights, and just for our listeners where we're at, Wayne and I are kind of glancing. He's glancing at his TV. I'm kind of glancing at mine over here. It's the second game is where we're at if you're streaming later in the week, but it's the second game of the LSU Wake Forest. Just watching Dylan Cruz, this guy, I think they posted up here that he has like a 60-plus hit streak in college baseball. That's insane, okay? So that LSU team has 3 or 4 guys that are first-round draft picks. So for us to get as far as we did and compete against those guys the way that we did in this College World Series is a compliment to the coaching staff at University of Tennessee.
Well, and I think, you look at it, the odds-on favorite to win the national championships, Florida, and I felt like we handled them pretty well in the regular season. So, no, I think this is one of those Tennessee's built to be here for a good long time. I mean, obviously, I think Tony wants some things in place. Facilities-wise, I think he wants to continue to recruit really well, and I think those things are going to continue. But all jokes aside, I think, you can read however you want. There's 8 teams in Omaha. 3 teams were eliminated ahead of us. So to me, that makes us a top 5 team in the country, all said and done. So I'll take it. Anytime your season, the title of this thing says an Omaha or a season ending in Omaha is never a bad season. So I'll take that for the Tennessee BASEVOLS. Like I said, I love that there's going to be some hunger come back from this team. Blake Burke, I think Drew Beam, those guys will kind of anchor the leadership. And then really, unlike last year, you should have a team that pretty much retools. You'll lose Zane Denton. You'll lose Griffin Merritt. You'll lose Ahuna. But realistically, you should have 6 of those 9 locked right back in.
Yeah. And we talked about it off air a little bit, Wayne, and just just going to bring it up for our listeners as a take that I have, and I know you and I talk through it on a regular basis, but my take has been, and I've brought it up on this show, is how Lindsey Nelson can help us, but it can also hurt us. And my take there is that Lindsey Nelson is a ballpark that plays very well to the competition. If you're a decently hitting ball club, you can look pretty strong at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. And Notre Dame showed that against us in the previous year against a team that's arguably one of the best in college baseball. But where I say it helps us, by playing in that ballpark, you hit the 120-plus home runs, and you beat the competition. And if you're pitching strong enough to survive, like the Vanderbilt Friday night heroics that you and I went to, you can get into the NCAA tournament. And that's what Tennessee does is by playing in Lindsey Nelson, it typically puts you in the NCAA tournament. But where it hurts you is if you get in the top 16 and you become that regional, maybe even potentially that super regional, then you have really good ball clubs that are playing really good baseball coming to a short porch. And that's where it hurt us against Notre Dame. This year, what you and I kind of wished for was that we would go on the road, and we got that wish. And what I saw when we got to Omaha, nothing was getting out of that ballpark. I mean, I think the first home run that I saw was Dylan Cruz jacked one against us down the right field line, and it just barely got over the fence.
Yeah, and he even took the short route. Nobody was hitting center field.
So it's a different ball game when you get to Omaha, and we did well. You made a very good point that I think they said in the Stanford game that we became a team that was, I think we had one extra base hit, and we had about 4 or 5 just singles. I mean, just knocking the ball around in the gaps and advancing the runners and end up winning that ball game.
Yeah, and Tony's a hungry enough young coach that he's only going to knock at that door a few times until he figures out what he needs to do to get through there. So I think he had enough pitching to get through. We just couldn't hit the ball well enough. And so I think there's where you close that gap. But we continue to bring better teams back to Omaha. I would argue this team now maybe this team isn't as good or built like last year's team, but last year's team came up a little short. So the 2 teams he's put in Omaha, this one was better than the first one.
Yeah, and look at how Chase Burns performed this year, towards the end of this season in this tournament. So I mean, just if he comes back next year, that's going to bring a lot to this ball club.
Yeah, if he comes back next year, to me, he steps right into Dolander's spot. If Lindsey comes back, you've got Friday, Saturday, and Sunday locked down. Then you just worry about finding relief pitching. I mean, Halverson's gone. He was a nice arm late, but at the end of the day, with injury and a 1-year go, his transition from Missouri never really made the impact we hoped it would. But all hats off. If I didn't have this headset on, I'd take it off. But hats off to Tony V's boys. Like I said, they make Tennessee baseball something you are excited to get to. I can't tell you for how many years Tennessee baseball it was a bridge over exciting waters between Tennessee basketball and Tennessee football, and now it's its own market. It's getting its own facility upgrades. It's getting high profile recruits. A kid from Vanderbilt entered the transfer portal just earlier today, and I said, "You watch out." I said, "Tony will be in Nashville tonight." Because he has no qualms, obviously with Tim Corbin in that group, but to go get great players. Zane Denton, he maybe single-handedly got us to at least to push the Southern Mississippi series, and he won the Clemson series for us. So to me, he knows how to get impact players when he needs them. So hats off to Tony V. I know we're cutting a little short, really, but kind of just a recap show as we want to kind of tool up for really moving forward. Will be more Major League Baseball. We'll talk Major League Baseball standings. we'll kind of hit a top three, bottom three from here. But one topic that really was probably a last week topic, but I do want to hit on it because between SEC Now, SEC Shorts, and every podcast that I follow, they've hit on this SEC realignment for 2024. They had an announcement show last week. I watched that. Might as well been no offense to the Major League Baseball, but might as well have been their draft because nothing surprised me with Tennessee. We didn't really get much of a change except we got Oklahoma added to the thing. So what do you think about dropping divisions? I mean, been a long time since we've done that. Obviously, back in the 90, 92 timing is when we started doing the two divisions, first conference to do that. And so now we're just one big bunch, and the two best records go to Atlanta.
I like it compared to the opposite of what was being discussed. I think they did a really good job of keeping the rivalries intact, and they also kind of sprinkled in some fun matchups that weren't necessarily part of our typical day to day. I think Alabama is slated to play Oklahoma. That's going to be a fun SEC matchup. They kept us with the standard 8-pack. 5 rivals, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt, and South Carolina gets off the hook against us. So
Missouri gets off the hook against us too.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but I really want to put about 65, maybe 72 on the Gamecocks this year.
I told Laura it made this year's meeting with South Carolina even more important because if he beats us and we've got to eat that for a couple 3 years, I don't want to have to deal with that. So to me, you got to win against South Carolina in 23 now. But yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing. Honestly, there's been years for the East that maybe Florida and Georgia were really 1 and 2, but they beat each other up and couldn't get to Atlanta. There's been years where Alabama and LSU have been 1 and 2, but really, whether it be Florida or Georgia or what have you, back their way into an opportunity to go to the Sugar Bowl. So to me, the two best records are going to get it. I like the way they align these schedules because how many times Tennessee was almost unaffected. We basically gave up Missouri and got Arkansas. I mean, put that in perspective. Lost South Carolina and got Oklahoma. So that's what Tennessee got out of the deal. But it's teams like Georgia that now have to play a competitive schedule. It's teams like Florida that now have to go to Oklahoma or that have to go to Austin, Texas. Teams that, can showboat their way around the state of Florida, Georgia, and really not leave the Southeast and then walk their way into Atlanta. So I like the balance because they gave you 4 teams that over the last 10 years was basically in the upper tier, and they gave you 4 teams that over the last 10 years was in the lower tier. And so to me, we just lucked up and we're right there in the mix. I will say over the last 10 years, I was surprised to say we were at the bottom shelf of the upper tier, which I can appreciate. I think that's probably as much to do with Josh Heupel's last 2 years as it is anything. I think we would have been in the other category had he not came to town. But I like what it shows. I think over the course of 23, you're going to get a little bit more into what our non-conference looks like in 24, and it'll really shake out to how difficult that schedule can and might be. But to me, and a lot of message boards have said it, that's Nico's sophomore season. Let's ride. I don't think there's a person you're going to be scared of the 4th year into Josh Heupel's kind of development. So I don't care how it rolls. I do think it does put some parity in the conference. I think it could make some struggles for some teams to go unscathed, but in 24 we're going to go to a 12-team playoff, so I don't think it matters.
Yeah, and building off of that, looking at obtainable and unobtainable factors with this development, obtainable is the 12-team playoff. Okay, you still have 8 conference ball games, 4 non-conference. So you and I talked about this a little bit. Is if you go into an 8 conference, 4 non-conference, and you lose 2 ball games, are you up for discussion in the Southeastern Conference for going to the 12-team playoff or the 12-team playoff? Absolutely. If you somehow make it out of the SEC and you lose one game, regardless of the strength of that SEC schedule, you're going to the 12-team playoff. You may not obtain the SEC championship. That's the part that I think with this new development, when you stack everybody in the SEC and you get to the end of the season and you have to determine who are the 2 teams playing in that SEC championship, you may not get that invite to Atlanta, but that'll be okay if your record is 10-2 and you're going to the 12-team playoff. It may become more of, hey guys, we lost 2 ball games. It's fine. We're going to stay healthy. We're going to go play in the playoff, but we're not going to get an SEC championship in the process. So I do think that's going to cause a lot of frustrations from the fan base, because I do believe there's a couple teams on here, when you look at the schedules they put out there, that could go 10-2 at the end of the year. And who's going to get the tiebreaker? Of course, they've got factors that they're going to tell us and share with us as they progress in 2024. But it's going to cause arguments and frustrations amongst the fan base.
Sure, absolutely. But that's a good thing about from now to then. There's a good amount of time, a lot of talking to be had, and those that get paid to dig like that, we'll just take their lead and then beat up what they say.
Yeah,
that's how that works.
Yeah, and what 2025 for the LSU Texas matchup, man. That's one that I was kind of hoping when they rolled that out. I was really wanting to see a matchup between Texas and LSU at Death Valley. Man, can you imagine those 2 fan bases in the same stadium on a late Louisiana evening with all that whiskey?
Nah, it'll happen. Hey, Steve Sarkisian's probably like, give me a couple of years so I can get Arch Manning a little bit of time under his belt. But Ben, moving forward, obviously college athletics in general is kind of coming to a close here in 2023, or at least spring 2023. We'll of course get back into football probably less than a month from now. I mean, we'll probably take a little month hiatus, but really moving forward, obviously you're kind of the American League guy. You're the Orioles man, and then I'm going to kind of follow the Braves and kind of look that direction. But I guess, are you excited about it being like all baseball now, like all Major League Baseball, or is this a time of the year where you're like, let's just push through it and then get to because again, I guess the sports world has what spoiled me is probably the best way to put it, because it's like there's certain times of the year where, Monday's this, Tuesday's this, Wednesday's that, Thursday's this. Well, now baseball does play every day basically, but it's not always your team. And so for me, I'm going to just try to get through about the next 6 weeks.
Yeah, for me, my wife hates this time of year because I spend a lot of money at Alumni Hall in preparation for football season. So I start buying all kinds of random Tennessee gear, stuff that, you absolutely have no use for. I think one year I bought like a rain jacket and a boonie hat, so it looked like I was getting ready to go sail the ocean with a torrential downpour for multiple days. But it was all orange and white gear, and I thought it was pretty sweet. So yeah, I'm gonna spend a lot of money on Tennessee gear. I'm gonna study a lot of Tennessee football. So I get into studying way too much football, and it could be college football or high school football. But I get into evenings where I just study that stuff while I watch a major league game. But yeah, the anticipation for football season coming up, it keeps me awake at night, brother.
Well, we'll of course try to get some podcasts out over the next few weeks. Again, hopefully leading up to high school football in July and maybe early August, we'll try try to hit Blount County here. That's where our home base is. If you're listening around the world or around the East Tennessee area, we're based out of Blount County, and that's I would say maybe per capita the most successful county in the state of high school football in the state of Tennessee. So I will do my best to try to get a representative from each of the 4 Blount County high schools, at least to get maybe a preseason preview. Hopefully it'll be a head coach, but beggars can't be choosers. We don't pay the best, so we'll see who we can get. But anything as we close up Tennessee baseball, and of course look ahead to this next the dog days of summer, talking Major League Baseball the next few podcasts.
No, just looking forward to football season, and again, congratulations to Tony V and the Vols. I'm very excited about where this program is. You talked about it during the show. I think we're going to continue to have success, and in multiple sports, including basketball upcoming. But that's for another evening. But definitely excited about the upcoming days.
All right, man. Well, have a good rest of your evening. As we close out here, the Wake Forest LSU game's still not over. I think it's going to the 12th inning now. But Dylan Cruz is, I think he's starting this inning off. So we may have some fireworks as we close this one up. But as always, about 30 minutes worth of talk. Hope you learned something. If you didn't watch other shows, we've talked probably better in other shows. But for now, take care, be safe, and as always, thanks. Grind on.